Hey guys, it's Kevin again, and as you can tell, this is not my usual kind of video. If you guys didn't see my last video, my computer is basically toast. I don't exactly know what happened. I heard this like loud noise, and my fan is out, and now it won't turn on. It won't even charge, so I'm pretty sure that computer is dead. I'm gonna have to get another one, but for the time being, this is how you're gonna see videos. I'm gonna record them on my iPhone. I know it sucks, but that I can't edit and shit, but it is what it is. At least I'm able to, do videos in some capacity, but for right now, we're just gonna have to deal with this, so bear with me, guys. I know this kind of sucks, but that's just kind of what I'm gonna have to do. Either way, let's just jump right into it. In this video, I'm going to be reviewing the series premiere of the new show, I'm Dying Up Here. Of course, this is a Showtime show, and I really didn't know what to think of going into this, to be honest with you, for a couple of reasons. One, the track record that Showtime has is not exactly an impressive one. I think every once and again, Showtime will have that hidden gem, like a Penny Dreadful, or something like, a Shameless or something like that. Even House of Lies, I was a fan of House of Lies. I think it was a well-done show. A lot of people didn't like it, but I always thought it was a well-done show. A lot of times, though, I think Showtime just tries to be an HBO wannabe, and they haven't been able to really get away from that. They always kind of have, like their own versions of HBO shows. Like HBO had Game of Thrones, Showtime had The Tudors, or HBO, HBO had Vinyl, Showtime had Roadies, something like that. HBO had The Leftovers, Showtime has, well, there's nothing Showtime has done that's close to The Leftovers, but you guys catch my drift. HBO had True Blood, Showtime had Penny Dreadful. That's just kind of what I feel like. I feel like Showtime's always trying to outdo HBO, and it's never exactly worked, and they've had a lot of throwaway shows, and I was really hoping this would be the show to maybe pick them off the ground, and maybe finally get them a good show that could really get them, what they want. And I'm sorry to say that I'm Dying Up Here, it could become that show, but it's just not that show yet. This show has really not hooked me in the way I wanted it to. Maybe it's going to get better as it goes on, but just right now, I don't really feel much towards this show. But let's get into the plot, which the plot of the show is relatively simple. We take place in the 1970s, and there's this club, basically, that everyone hangs at, and it's all for, like, these up-and-coming comedians who, they want to be, like, really successful and things like that. It's ran by this woman, Goldie, who she's sort of like the head of it all, and basically, a lot of these comedians are starting to realize that they might actually not make it, and that's the essential plot of them Dying Up Here. There's really not much else to talk, there's really not much else to say. That's like the essential plot of the show. But let's just get into this, starting off with the cast, which I have to say, the cast in here is really solid. I don't really think there's, a bad actor in here or anything. But right now, there really were not too many people that really did compel me. Look, I love Melissa Leo as much as the next person. I think she's a very versatile actress. I think there's a lot of stuff she can do, but she was not good here. I don't know what happened, but I really did not like her character, Goldie. She's supposed to be this, like, cutthroat director that really cares about these kids and really wants them to succeed and will do anything she can to try to get them the spotlight, but it just came across as really overdramatic, and it was funny. It's not supposed to be funny, but it was just really over the top, I have to say. There's this one scene she has with this guy where she's talking about everything she's willing to do. She starts talking about, like, her boobs and shit. It just wasn't an interesting scene. I thought it was just really over the top, and it wasn't funny either. Like, it wasn't supposed to be funny, but I was laughing unintentionally, so I really was not a fan of her. I just found her to be the typical cutthroat director that's very tough, smokes a lot, drinks a lot, and I just didn't really find her to be all that interesting, I have to say. So Melissa Leo, as much as I think the show wanted me to like her, I really was not a fan of her, unfortunately. The one character that I actually really did like was Ari Grainer, I think her name is, her character. I actually really did like this character. I thought for the most part she actually did a really good job. This character in general, this is someone who actually is struggling. She has this boyfriend, Clay, who, it's not really much of a spoiler, he's killed in, like, the first 16 minutes of the show. I like we got Sebastian Stan here, but she, throughout the show, she's very much outnumbered because she's like the one woman working in this business, and no one really takes her seriously. Everyone just kind of thinks of her as like a sex object, and they think of her as this very naive one, but she's actually very intelligent, and she's kind of tired of putting on this facade. And I have to say, my favorite scene with her had to be the ending, where she's going to Melissa Leo, to Goldie, and she's asking her, she said, I want to do the routine. And Goldie's like, all right, you can do it. But she's like, no, I don't want to do that anymore. And she finally strips the ridiculous action she's been doing throughout the whole thing and finally presents herself in a more mature human way. And I thought it was really well done, the way they handled it. I really did enjoy her throughout the show. And like I said, I think she really did impress me. So I was really a big fan of her on the show. I hope we see more of her, and she could very well become my favorite character. And I think she definitely, out of everyone, is really great. And the rest of the cast here, I think is fine. I like RJ Cyler, I like Clark Duke, but I just didn't find their characters all that interesting. I've seen these characters before, people have these problems and people are trying to overcome things. I've seen it all before. They all felt very disposable, and they just don't really seem all that relatable or all that interesting. Like I said, it was really only Ari Grainer's character that I really found myself relating to. I mean, I like Sebastian Stan. I liked his character Clay. This is someone who's kind of confused in life, and he's this big star on, he goes on Johnny Carson, and Johnny Carson really is laughing at him, but you can tell that he has a lot of pressure on himself to be funny, and I thought they did a good job with that, but he's killed in the first 16 minutes, so unfortunately, I can't really give much towards this character because he's killed way too early, and aside from him, I really did not find many people that I really did identify with and really connected to, so unfortunately, characters, this show's already lacking with that. Let's get to the directing and the writing, because the biggest problem with this show is the directing. Now, look, I know that Jim Carrey is very depressed right now. His girlfriend committed suicide. He hasn't been acting. He's not in a very good place in his life, but that does not mean you need to ingest so much tragedy within this show. And I've said it before, comedy comes from tragedy. The problem is, this show is basically devoid of any humor. Any scene that's not a stand-up scene is extremely serious, and it's to the point where it's hard to take this show seriously at points. I mean, it's degrading at points. Like, it's the reason why people left The Leftovers Season 1, because it was such a depressing show. This show is kind of depressing. It really is. I mean, there's just so much shit going on here. There's like this elderly woman in the show who's going through problems, and I just could not find myself getting into it because of that tone. That dreary, depressing tone that this show has, I just don't think works here. I think it works in another show, but it just doesn't really work for this show, unfortunately, and it really did take me out of it. I think the stand-up scenes, honestly, are the highlight of the show. Just like the music scenes were the highlight in Vinyl, this show can't stick to its main topic. It has to focus on these other things like drugs and drinking and gangs and things like that. I don't know why all these 70s shows feel like they need to cover all these other aspects. Just stick to comedy. I mean, you already have a really compelling story there, and that has to do with the screenplay, really. The screenplay itself is really all over the place. I mean, none of these characters, all of them have problems, all of them feel like shit, all of them are kind of struggling, and some of them, again, it makes sense. Like Ari Grainer, this guy didn't really care about her. She's realizing Clay really wasn't someone who cared about her. She's kind of trying to move on from that, but she also feels a lot of compassion for him because she did have this relation with him. That, like I said, I am into. I do think that's interesting. The problem is this show doesn't know how to do drama. I mean, they had this opportunity, and I don't know if they're going to do it, but the thing that they should really be focusing on is how much pressure these people really do have when they're on the stage. I mean, when you're put on the spot like that and you're forced to make people laugh, it is, in fact, a lot of pressure. You have to go on there and you have to make sure that what you say is funny. And if the crowd isn't laughing, then you just feel awkward. You don't feel like you're saying the right things. And that should be the drama we're seeing these characters go through. But unfortunately, it's not that. It's all these other things, like their home lives and all these other things that they've gone through. And I just don't really care as much, I have to say. I want them to focus on the comedy. Stick to that. You already have a show about stand-up comedy and, these comedians on the rise. You don't need anything else. I feel like it's too much. It's trying to be all these other things that I've seen done a lot better. A lot of this show, it feels like it's trying to be this, character study, or it's trying to be this, deep show, and it just doesn't really work, unfortunately. It's really over-bloated, and the cinematography is honestly great here. Just like Vinyl, it's great. It really does look like the 70s. But it feels kind of toned down, honestly. A lot of people have said this, and I will agree. This show feels very clean. It feels like it's not willing to show how gritty and how rebellious America really is. I mean, when you're on a network like Showtime, I mean, sure, you have the restraint. You don't really have restraints or anything. But all these characters doing, just saying the F-bomb every 5 seconds, that doesn't mean that that's compelling TV. I mean, they're kind of, holding back and not really getting into what was really going on in that time period. That's also the problem that Vinyl had. Vinyl, I don't really really think held back, but I think it showed too much. And this show in general just feels a little too clean. It doesn't really feel like this is the 70s. It feels like this is a more like pitch perfect, everyone looks great area, and I don't really believe it, I have to say. There's not enough with that. Again, it's supposed to be this dreary show, but there's not enough shown physically that really makes us feel for these characters. Unfortunately, they just didn't really know how to find that, I have to say. Even Goldie doesn't really have much going on with her in this. I mean, she's just kind of the manager, and that's all. At least from this first episode, there's not really much going on with her, unfortunately. And then the score I thought was fine. I thought the 70s music was good. Honestly, though, I don't think this show needs to be an hour long. I really don't think so. I think it easily could have been 30 minutes long, and I'm not going to lie, a lot of this did drag on, and I really was not that into this premiere. It was hard to stay invested because, again, I just didn't really care about half of these characters, and I want this show to get better. I'm hoping it doesn't take that direction that Vinyl took. The problem with Vinyl is that it didn't realize what show it really was and its strengths till it was too late. I mean, once it found its strengths, that's when the creator of the show, I can't think of his name right now, but he also did Borak Empire. That's when he up and left, and that's when that show was dead. It was after all of that. Once they realized what their strengths were, he had already left, and that was the problem with Vinyl. I don't think Vinyl was ever a terrible show. It was just a huge show of missed opportunities, and I feel like that's what I'm dying up here. Unfortunately, seems like it's going to be. I think this could have been a much better show, but right now, this just didn't really do much to compel me, I have to say. I was not a huge fan of this premiere overall. And I am going to give the first episode of I'm Dying Up Here, unfortunately, a 2.5 out of 5 or a C. Like I said, aside from Ari Grainer's character, I just didn't really find that much compelling stuff going on here. I've seen all of these characters before. I hope it goes differently. Maybe it'll go in this really interesting direction. I don't know. But right now, it's just not doing that much to compel me. So, overall, guys, that's in my review of the first episode of I'm Dying Up Here. Sorry if I didn't really get more into these characters, but again, I just didn't really care. I've seen them 1,000 times. I know exactly where they're going to go. Let me know what you guys thought of this premiere overall. Left your thoughts, and I am going to continue to watch this show because I do want to hope it gets better. I'm waiting for Showtime to get that one big show that really does put them on the map, and unfortunately, don't really have it right now. But that's my review. Hope you guys enjoy it. We'll see you guys in my next video, which I think will be for Fargo. Don't quote me on that, but I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.